Warning. Listening to this show may result in increased levels of inspiration, motivation, and innovation. Side effects can include the immediate urge to take massive action to build a better business and life for yourself and others. You've been warned. Welcome to Influencers Radio with your host, Jack Mize.
And we're back with another edition of Influencers Radio. Today's guest, I'm really happy to have him on because he's going to go behind the scenes, kind of open up the curtain of what occurs to just about each and every one of us, if not on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. And that is when you enter your name and your email address into something because you want to get more information. But even more so, if you're an entrepreneur and you have a business and you have an opt-in on your pages, you collect emails, and just about anyone in business has paid any attention to online marketing. You've heard the term, the money is in the list. And a lot of people stop far short of what the true potential of this technology can provide. They stop with getting that email and then sending them something in return and possibly following up with them later, right? That's a lot of times at best what a lot of businesses do. Businesses that take it a little further and actually go through and send them some things with some very purposeful ideas and content after that are ahead of the game compared to most folks. But our guest today is going to take that to a whole nother level. I'm talking about exponentially from just collecting an email address and sending them something back. We're talking about a guy that digs deep into not just the technology, but the psychology of what occurs when people are entering your funnel. And that's what we're talking about is a funnel, online funnel, email funnel. It's when people come into your they're giving you the opportunity to engage with them. They're giving you the permission to provide them with your good content and build that relationship. And it's something that you shouldn't take lightly. And it's something that can be, and I would say arguably is one of the most profitable things that a business can do is to engage in this. So just be prepared because we are going to go deep into this and you're going to see some things that you've probably never considered, even things that you may participate in on a regular basis. But our guest today, Ryan Levesque, he is known as the funnel specialist. And when I say the funnel specialist, those aren't just words. I'm talking about this guy has generated 2.8 million leads, not hits on a website, 2.8 million leads, 2.8 million people that have raised their hand and say, here's my information. I want more. And it's actually turned those leads into over 175,000 customers across 17 markets in the last 23 months alone. So when I say he's a funnel specialist, this guy understands from entry to exit the most profitable and the path of least resistance to turn prospects into leads and those leads into customers. Ryan Levesque, welcome to Influencers Radio.
Jack, I'm so excited to be here, and thanks so much for having me.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, it's I'm kind of scared, having talked to you and understanding these funnels. First of all, I'm going to tell you right now, anybody that's out there, if you are concerned, don't be. Because Ryan makes this extremely simple in the way that he explains this process. And like I say, not just the technology and psychology, but, I go cross-eyed looking at funnels sometimes. If this happens and that happens, side sells, up sells, down sells, go away, we don't want to sell. But you kind of understand what's going on all around this funnel. First of all, what I want to do is I want you to explain to me and our listeners what exactly a funnel is? Let's start with that, and then we'll get into the details of how you kind of make this your own.
It's a great question, Jack. And it's one of these buzzwords that I think people might have heard a little bit about. They've heard people use the term marketing funnel, sales funnel, but don't quite understand what that means exactly and what that is and how it relates to their business. I'm going to define funnel in the way I use it in my own business. And the way I look at a funnel is this. A funnel is nothing more than a series of steps that you want your prospect to take them from being someone who has no idea about who you are and what you sell to becoming somebody that spends money with you. So a funnel is just a great way to visualize that process. If you think about something like flour from the kitchen or water flowing through a funnel, like the funnel you use if you're putting gasoline into a lawnmower. If you can envision that red funnel, you have a large amount that might start going through that wide end of the funnel. And these would be the equivalent of potential prospects, people who don't know who you are. Well, at the bottom of that funnel, on the narrow part, only a small number of people or flour or water, whatever you want to look at, actually comes out. Well, the funnel is taking that wide range of people who have no idea about who you are and what you do, taking them through a series of orchestrated steps that you want them to take, and we're going to talk about what some of those steps are in a moment, to becoming an actual customer with you. And the reason why it's so important to have a marketing funnel is because there's almost no business on the planet where someone goes from not knowing who you are at all to the very next step being spend money with you. If you look at it in terms of a relationship, Jack, this is a great analogy because I think it makes a lot of sense for people. In the history of relationships, in the history of men and women, there have probably been almost no marriages that have gone from I have no idea who you are to I do. Right? There's a series of steps.
Not
that
sober
happens.
anyway.
Not sober anyway. Exactly. Outside of Las Vegas. Let's lead with that caveat. For most people, there's the same set of steps that occur between those two extremes. They might be waving hi, hello, then maybe a handshake. Maybe the handshake turns into a conversation. The conversation eventually leads to a hug. A hug eventually leads to a kiss, and a kiss leads to everything between that and saying, I do. But there are a series of steps that need to take between those two things, and a marketing funnel is nothing more than the series of steps that you want your prospect to take between not knowing who you are to spending money with you, and doing it in a way that you're orchestrating the process. You're guiding people through a very specific set of steps that you want them to take instead of letting it happen organically and haphazardly.
Now, one thing I want to point out before anyone excuses themselves from understanding any business, all right, just about any business, and we're talking about people that do coaching, consulting, people that sell information products, people that sell physical products. I know that you have worked with clients, 17 different markets, right? Mm-hmm. And people may not realize, so they can get an example of that entry point to a funnel. I think about when people are looking online for anything from auto insurance. They click on something that they want to find auto insurance. What's the first thing that they have? They are asked to input some type of information that then takes them into other steps. So, throw out some industries just so people understand that this isn't just about, people selling big, information products or training like that. This can be for so many different industries, both online and brick and mortar.
Give me an example. What would be a good example to go into? Because I want to pick an example that would be as relevant as possible.
Sure. Let's go into some professional services, maybe like a CPA, finance, or a physician of some sort. Let's say a dentist, cosmetic dentistry. That would be probably a good one. Cosmetic dentistry.
Perfect.
What
Actually,
would be...
I'm in one of those niches, so it works out beautifully.
Perfect.
I'm in a subspace of the cosmetic dentistry space, specifically Invisalign. Invisalign is a product that's an alternative to braces. It's basically a clear retainer that you put over your mouth that straightens your teeth. And the benefits of it are you don't have those braces, which is great if you're an adult and you don't want to have that look of braces like when we were teenagers. So it's clear. And number two, you can take the trays out when you're eating. So you don't need to worry about not being able to eat corn on the cob or, a crisp apple or something like that. There are no foods that are off limits and you can brush your teeth and put them back in. So that's what Invisalign is. Now, the question is, what does a marketing funnel look like for something like Invisalign? So I have a funnel that we license to dentists around the country. Okay. Now, the way most people find out about Invisalign is they either have a friend that has it or they hear something about it on a news program or, they're sitting in the dentist's office and they see a brochure about Invisalign while they're waiting and they think maybe this is right for me. Typically what happens after that is people go online and they start doing research. To find out, is it right for them? Well, eventually they start looking for Invisalign providers in their particular area. And their biggest question is Invisalign right for me? So you see all the steps that I've described right now, this leads up to the first real interaction that we're going to talk about online. People don't just say, Invisalign, sign me up. And they don't walk into the dentist's office the next day and get the procedure done to have it put on their mouth. It's an expensive procedure that costs thousands of dollars to go through the whole treatment. So it's not a decision people make lightly. They do this research gathering, and then with our funnel as an example, they might type in, Invisalign Houston as an example, if they live in Houston, or cosmetic dentistry in Houston on Google. They then see an ad that says something like, thinking about Invisalign? Find out if Invisalign is right for you. Click here. They click on that. Then they get to a page that has a short video that basically says, hey, listen, Invisalign is a great option. If you've done your research, then you know the difference between Invisalign and braces is this, this, and this. However, Invisalign is not for everybody, which is true. It depends on your lifestyle and it depends on your dental situation. But if you take a few moments right now to answer a few simple questions, with that information, we'll be able to give you something known as your Invisalign score, which will tell you how good of a choice Invisalign is for you. And then at the end of it, if you decide that it is a good choice for you, we give you information on how to schedule an initial free consultation to speak with the dentist and talk in detail about any questions that you might have. All you need to do is this: answer the questions that pop up, enter your name and email, and you'll get your free Invisalign score minutes from this very moment. So what I just walked you through right there is an experience that someone would have going to a website where they would watch a short little video, have a series of questions that pop up, which we're going to get to in a second. After they answer those questions, they'd enter their name and email to get the results of what we call your Invisalign score. After they enter their name and email, they'll find out what their Invisalign score is, and then if it turns out that they are a good candidate for this type of treatment, then they'll have information on how to schedule their first initial free consultation with the doctor. And then from there, if they attend that consultation, they'll speak to the doctor in person. It'll be an in-person visit. They'll have their questions answered. And if they want to move forward with treatment, they'll do so at that time. But you can see what I just walked through right there are the series of steps that someone goes through. So forget about the research gathering, forget about the Invisalign entering someone's awareness process, but just focus on the part where they go to Google and they type in Invisalign Houston or whatever city they might be in. The first thing that they do is they type that in. Then they see an ad. The ad says, isn't thinking about Invisalign? Find out if Invisalign is right for you. They then click on that ad. That's the first step. After they click on that ad, they get to what we call a landing page, the first page that they quote unquote land on one of our dentist's website. They watch a short video. That's the third step. If they like the video and they believe in what we're saying, they'll answer the questions that pop up. That's the fourth step.
No, I'm going to interrupt you here because I'm going to tell you right now, this is where it gets good and it gets scary, right? Because what you just described, I just want to make sure that everyone understands. And I know even some of the most progressive businesses that do marketing and collect information, what you just described is where a lot of them stop in their lead gathering, the gathering process. And I want to point out that this is where you just begin. And the reason I say it's scary, well, I think I'm so thankful that you're not a criminal psychopath, because I think people will understand why I say that now, because what we're, about to unfold, I'm pretty sure, is things that people rarely, if ever, consider, what the power that can be had when you get people through this process. And I want to set this up that your strategy behind this and the way that you've developed this was not by accident. You went to you actually studied and taught at Brown University, right, for neuroscience, correct?
That's correct. So before I, through a series of steps, evolved into doing what I'm doing now, initially I thought I was going to go into academia. And the reason why is I have a huge fascination with the human brain, how we respond to different things, human psychology. And so I was going down the path of teaching until I became really interested in more practical application of psychology, and most specifically consumer psychology, understanding why we act in certain ways, understanding everything from why certain paint colors cause us to alter our purchasing decisions when we're in a department store, through why certain fonts and character spacing online influence our behaviors in how we navigate a website, and then everything in between. Once you go down that rabbit hole and start researching and understanding things, you start to realize that there are sort of two ways of going about the world in terms of business. There are businesses out there that do things that just because, and then there are other businesses where every single decision is premeditated and there's a reason why. And arguably the best example of this on the planet is Disney. Every single detail in the Disney experience, whether that's on Disney's website online, or if you're visiting one of their theme parks, or you're watching one of their movies, every single nanosecond of that experience has been premeditated, and it's like that on purpose. There's nothing that's left to chance or accident. And when you start to peel back that curtain and realize that things that you just thought were happening and were just sort of happening because that's the way they are, it's all been, again, it's premeditated, it's orchestrated, it's manufactured. And that's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just, that is what it is. But once you understand some of that, and you can begin applying some of those things to your business, it's amazing what type of results that you can get. And my subspecialty, what I focus on, what I'm probably arguably one of the only people in the world that does exactly what I do, is leveraging the power of surveys in marketing funnels to gather the right type of intelligence about your prospects, so that you can then echo certain things back to them in a way that they don't even realize you're doing.
And that's why I'm so glad that you are not a criminal psychopath. Because, and so I didn't mean to take a left turn right in the process, but I wanted people to get I didn't want it to be missed, and I want to put a spotlight on why what you're about to unfold is so incredibly powerful, and the thought and the understanding behind that as you develop this. So let's peel back the hood on this with the surveys. And one, I don't want people to be frightened or think, oh, it's about to get complicated, because it's not. And you see this. You've probably seen Ryan's work, because we're talking about some of the biggest companies in the country, especially, online companies, or in the world really, use Ryan. You have like a 6-month waiting list for people that want to book and work with you as a coach on this stuff. So this is real stuff that you've probably seen. And so pay attention, and you just may recognize this as you go through your online life, finding stuff, and you'll be able to see what's happening, what's occurring, and the reason behind it. So let's do that.
Let's do it. Where would you like to start? Should we talk about an example? Should we talk about one of the things I think is important to talk about, and Jack, just feel free to interrupt me, is people hear surveys, and everybody has a different conception of what they think of when they hear a survey. And most of us think, survey, well, that's boring. I've known about surveys since I was 5 years old. There's nothing new there. Or some people have the reaction, I've used surveys in my marketing and it really hasn't gotten me anywhere. And so I want to talk about, on a very sort of nitty gritty, ready to implement now level, how people can start using some of this in their marketing without having a PhD in any of this stuff, being able to take the most important, easiest to implement parts of what I do and begin to using it in their business right away.
Yeah, that would be perfect, because I think when you say the word survey, and I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of people, when they think survey, they interpret that as, excuse me, can I bother you for a while? Right? Excuse me, can I steal some of your time away? Right. And because people think survey, I'm about to give you information that benefits you and you're going to waste my time. And so let's wipe that obstacle out of the way and start right there. That's perfect.
That's perfect. So let's talk about the two big mistakes that people make with surveys. So the first one is when they're trying to get somebody to take a survey, positioning it as a survey. Exactly what you were just saying, Jack. Because I don't know how many times I just got my car serviced, and I got a phone call and an email from the dealership, and they said, will you do this quick customer service survey for us? And I thought, no way. I'm too busy. I'm not going to get on the phone and call this number and do this whole thing and jump through all these hoops. No, thank you. What's in it for me? Nothing is in it for me. It's positioned as work for me. I don't get any value from it. But let's take an alternative example. One of the markets that I'm in, one of the many markets that I'm in, is in the golf market. So I have a number of funnels, marketing funnels, in the golf instruction market online. So if you play golf and you've looked for golf tips online, you've probably seen a lot of what I do. In that market, we have a number of surveys, and one of them goes along the lines of this. How to hit the ball 15 to 30 yards further. Do you know, simply by eliminating your number one distance killer? Find out what your distance killer is here. Goes to it. That's what an ad would say, roughly. You click on that ad. You go to, again, a landing page. Landing page has a video. The video explains something. Explains this. Did you realize that all golfers, no matter how good you are, or if you're, just beginner, or if you're a seasoned pro, suffer from something that we call distance killers. These are things that you do in your golf swing that actually sap distance out of your swing. They're things that people don't even realize that they're doing. And what's interesting is that every player, from the rank beginner to the polished professional, suffers from at least one of these distance killers. Normally, the only way to find out what your distance killer is to come visit me in person at my in-person golf training institute. But the good news is this. Because I've worked with so many people, I can actually just ask you a few simple questions online about your playing tendencies, the mistakes that you tend to make, who you are. And with that information, I can tell you what your number one distance killer is absolutely free. In fact, we can do it right now in 30 seconds. All you need to do is answer a few simple questions, enter your name and email, and I'll give you your number one distance killer and how to fix it minutes from this very moment. Now, look at the difference between the way those two surveys have been positioned. One is positioned around, you're getting nothing. You're giving me information. The first one, the car example, the dealership example. The second one is, I want to know. I mean, if you're listening to this right now and you play golf, I would be willing to bet that you want to know what your distance killer is, because it's curiosity inducing. It's about prospect self-discovery. Your prospects have an opportunity to find out something about themselves that they want to know. They want that information. But here's the kicker. The cool thing that goes on along the way is that by asking those questions, you can gather intelligence about your prospect. You can ask questions like, are you a man or are you a woman? And then armed with that information, all your marketing to that person going forward can address them in the form of a woman or a man. The examples that you use when you're referencing things on a sales page on your website or in your email follow-ups can speak to a woman. So in other words, you can use examples like, most of the women that I work with, when I look to improve their golf swing, they tend to struggle with one of two challenges. If I'm a woman reading that email, all of a sudden, it's become so much more relevant to me in my life that I'm going to be reading it with much more interest than if it's just a generic email that speaks to all people. Take that a step further. You ask people their age. If someone says that they are a 55-year-old woman versus a 30-year-old woman, for the 55-year-old woman, you might talk about, for example, if this is a health market, menopausal issues. Versus the 30-year-old woman, you might talk about the challenges of having young children or a newborn baby. You don't know that information necessarily, but you're able to speak to them in a much more hyper-relevant way. And it's all predicated on gathering this intelligence through the survey, and the survey working is predicated on positioning it the right way.
It says that what you're doing effectively is scientifically creating a crystal ball that you can speak to them through.
It's exactly what you're doing.
But they're giving the information. So going back real quick to the whole reason they want to take it, if you boil it down, to me, what I heard you say is it's the difference between here, do this for me, or here, do this for you.
It's what it all comes down to.
And obviously people are far more inclined to do that. And especially the way that you created that curiosity and even anxiety around the information that they were going to be able to get by going through the simple steps. And then it really is remarkable. You mentioned 30 seconds. So in 30 seconds, you're saying that you can get from them, whether they're a male or female, how old they are, different, things that probably likes, what is some of the information that you're actually able to capture to be able to create that crystal ball, in 30 seconds from them?
Well, it varies from market to market, of course. So in the golf market, it might be something like, which of the following better describes your tendencies? Do you tend to hook the ball more often, or you tend to slice the ball more often? So that might be one of several questions. In the Invisalign market, it would be something like, which of the following better describes your teeth? Do you have crowded teeth or spaced teeth? And we might give two images to show what that looks like so someone can choose which one best describes them. So each step along the way, we're gathering more and more information that we can use in our follow-up. So we might speak to the person who has spaced teeth in a very different way than the person who has crowded teeth. That's one example. In the golf market, we might speak to someone differently who says they have a hook or they have a slice. Another thing that we might do, as an example, is let's say in the Invisalign market, maybe we have a separate treatment specifically for people who only have crowded teeth. We have Invisalign, but then we have this other treatment. It's a deep cleaning for crowded teeth. It's a pre-treatment that we go through before people start Invisalign to clean between those tough places that people with crowded teeth tend to have. And here's why this is so important. So we might expose people who have crowded teeth with this particular offer, this particular opportunity to go through this treatment program. And we wouldn't expose the spaced teeth people because it's just not relevant to them. It's not a solution for them. In the golf market, maybe we have an entire course that teaches people how to stop hooking the ball. Well, we're not going to waste people's time who don't hook the ball with that offer. So the net effect here is instead of having to guess what it is that you should be selling to people, and this is especially effective if you sell more than one product, instead of having to guess, by asking people about who they are, what they struggle with, you can put them in touch and match them up with the best fit offer, the best fit service, the best fit plan, the best fit product that you sell, rather than just trying to sell the same thing to everybody.
Well, I know that could be extremely powerful, especially, and I was going to ask you, Invisalign, that's a product you take people through, and it sounds like ultimately, so even if you have one product, you can still take people through, but speak to them in their language, even though they're ultimately going to be brought back to make a decision to purchase the same product. Whereas you can also use this for, I guess, multiple products. If let's say, there's people that may have, 2, 3, 5, 10 different products. And, there's the, what is the old, story about the donkey that starved to death because they had 3 piles of food in front of it and he couldn't decide which one to eat, right? and so you're creating a decision with that. So you're saying that even if you have a lot of, so let's take 31 flavor ice cream to make it simple, right? So rather than saying, come on in, pick which ice cream you want. And I can tell you from experience, that can be a time consuming process.
Mm-hmm. It's
right?
time consuming. There's this concept that we call the paradox of choice. And there are a lot of studies that have been done around this in a number of different scenarios. But basically, the idea is this. If people are given too many options, they either leave taking no action or they leave dissatisfied.
Or I leave with a stomach ache because I've eaten way too much ice cream.
Or in Jack's case, he just tries them all. And he's flavored them all, but yeah, he leaves with a stomach ache. Yeah. That's funny. No, so it's a challenge. And so the variety to the 31 flavors thing, well, why does that exist? Why is that so successful? Well, the variety is actually important to get people through the door. If you've ever been to, the reason why we go to Walmart or Costco or something like that is why? Because they have everything. Right? They have
so I need a Sherpa sometimes to get through those places, though.
Exactly. But once you're inside, it's extremely frustrating. And I can't tell you how many times I've gone into a store like Walmart or Costco and I've walked out empty-handed because I couldn't find what I was looking for and there was no one there to help me. Well, ask yourself, what percentage, if you know this number, what percentage of your website visitors who visit your website every single month actually buy something from you? Even if you're doing awesome, even if you're one of the most successful business people in the world, maybe you're converting 2% of your visitors. To look at that another way, what that means is 98% of people who visit your website leave empty-handed. Imagine if Walmart was doing those numbers. If every 100 people that entered the store, 98% of them walked out empty-handed. They wouldn't be in business. So the question is, how do you overcome that? Well, with the paradox of choice, if you give people too many options, that becomes a problem. So if you have all those options, they need, Jack, in your terms, they need a Sherpa. They need a guide. They need some help. Help me find what's right for me. And you can position that. You can say, I've got 31 flavors of ice cream, and how many times do you do that? You go to a nice restaurant and there are 50, I'm not a big wine connoisseur. Jack, you're much more of a wine connoisseur than I am, I think.
I'm a snob. I only drink grape wine, so.
There you go. That's great. That's great. Wine's made from grapes. You get to the restaurant, you look at the wine menu, and you ask the sommelier, what? Do you have any recommendations? And what do they say? Well, do you prefer red? Do you prefer white? What are you eating for your meal? Are you having fish? Are you having red meat? What do you prefer? Do you prefer dry wines or, I don't know what the alternative to dry wines is, sweeter wines? You ask all these questions. Then they get down to price point. Price range be more what you're looking for, more of this price range. Well, this price range. So what are you doing? You're helping to narrow down the options. And at the end of it, the good sommelier might say, well, what I recommend is if I would either recommend this one or this one. Which do you prefer, sir? Or and then you might say, choose one for me. But they're helping narrow down the options based on what your preferences are. Now, that's an in-person experience. What we're trying to do here online is replicate that experience and do it in a way that you can do it in an automated way so you don't need to interact with every single person who visits your website one-on-one. Now, it helps if you've had that experience before, because really what you want to do is approximate that experience and do it by asking a few simple questions like we described in the Invisalign example, like we described in the golf example, and countless other examples that we could get into. So that's if you have more than one. That's if you have the 31 flavors. Well, if you're listening to this and you say, well, I only do one thing. I'm a consultant and I'm a CPA and I do people's taxes for a living. Fine. Well, how do you use this type of approach? Well, if you offer just one service, one product, what you're going to find is that there are different segments in your market, right? So as a CPA, you might want to know something. Let me ask you a question. Before we work together, tell me, are you an employee of a company or are you self-employed? Oh, I'm self-employed. Oh, okay, interesting. Now, when you say you're self-employed, are you a solo entrepreneur or do you have actual employees? Oh, I have employees. Now, when you say employees, are these W-2 employees? Or are these 1099 independent contractors? Oh, they're 1099 independent contractors. Well, it's interesting because I happen to specialize in helping people with their taxes who are solo entrepreneurs who also have 1099 contractors that they work with. In fact, there's a unique set of circumstances from a tax perspective that you need to know about, and it's something that most of the big tax firms out there don't have an appreciation for. Now, we should talk, if you're interested, enter your name and email, and I can send you my top 10 mistakes that solo entrepreneurs with 1099 contractors tend to make with their taxes, and we can set up an initial consultation to talk about how you can maximize your tax savings. Well, you see what I did just there? That end experience. If you're a solo entrepreneur with 1099 contractors, don't you have so much more confidence in me as a CPA than if you just come to my website and it said something like, enter your name and email for a free tax consultation? Generic. Same thing for everybody. I have no confidence that you can help me in my particular situation. Well, you might offer one service, tax planning services, or actually doing someone's, federal income tax returns. But by simply going through this process, I have so much more confidence that you can deliver a specific, specialized result for someone like myself who's in my position. The fact that you've explained that you understand where I'm coming from, I'm much more likely to take you up on that offer to both enter my name and email to get that free report and potentially set up that initial consultation than the 99 other CPAs out there that don't take the time to do that, that just present the generic. And that's the real opportunity here, is that almost nobody does this. Ask yourself, how many times have you gone online and had this experience? You may have had it before, but it's the exception and not the rule. And what that tells you is it's an opportunity to differentiate yourself from everybody else who does something similar to what you do.
It is. What I see here is how huge it is that the way that you do it is not, intrusive when you're gathering in that information. It's just like when you were talking as the CPA. These are all relative things that are very direct, where a lot of people take surveys. Their questions say, what does this have to do with anything, right? When people think about surveys. But these are very direct. And I'm almost thinking about the way this works and why it is so stealth. And people may not see that because the way that you're explaining this, but you think about it. You watch a show with the pet psychic, right? There's a reason why the pet psychic doesn't go walk right into a family and say, hey, your little brown poodle Fufu that died last year, she says she misses you, she loves you, and she wishes she had that favorite treat that you always gave her, right? Because right. The pet psychic knows nothing about that until they go in and say, I see a dog, and they gather information in a very stealth way to where at the end of it, it's like, wow, how could they possibly know this? Right.
It's a game of, am I getting closer? Just imagine yourself, you're playing doctor, right? This is what I like to, the exercise, I think it's valuable for someone to go through. Your client, your prospective customer, is a patient. They walk through your door and they say, Doc, I don't feel so good. What's the first thing you do as a doctor? What's your first move? Is it, well, I recommend you take 3 of these a day, come see me in 2 weeks, and we'll talk? No, that's not what happens, right? It's the complete opposite. It's, well, let's take a look at your vitals. Okay, your vitals are okay. Let me ask you a few questions. Where's the pain hurt you? Oh, it hurts me over here. And what kind of pain are you having? Is it more of a numb sensation or a throbbing sensation? Oh, it's throbbing. Does it tend to get worse at certain times of day, or is it sort of consistent throughout the day? Oh, yeah, it kind of gets worse at night. Interesting. Is it after dinner or before dinner? Oh, it's after dinner. What kind of diet do you have when you have dinner? Do you have, a heavy dinner or a light dinner? Oh, I have a heavy dinner. You're asking questions like that. And the reason why this is so effective is A, because it works, and B, there's no hype to it, right? People think about this and they say, I don't like to sell. I don't like to be in marketing. I don't like all the hype. There's so much hype online. And the reason why people use hype is because they have to overcome this. You can get rid of hype with hyper specificity, right? If I ask you enough questions and I say, it just so happens that I have a solution that's specifically right for you, what's your question? Your only question is, how much does it cost? That's it. That's the reaction that you elicit from your prospects when you do this and you do this well, is I'm sold on the solution. How much does it cost? And the only people that you're not going to convert into customers are people that just can't justify or don't have the money to invest in whatever it is that you're selling. That's it. Everybody will want what you're selling. It's just a matter of price.
It is. Essentially, you're giving them, you're letting them know that you're speaking their language, but at the same time, they're giving you on a silver platter, here is how to sell to me.
Exactly. And they don't look at it like that. What they look at it is that doctor-patient relationship. A doctor cannot adequately treat someone without getting this information. Well, how can you adequately prescribe a solution to your prospects without gathering this information? The answer is you can't. Now, the people who succeed in spite of doing this succeed in spite of themselves. They're doing it because they're maybe guessing at what the majority of people in their market would otherwise say, but in most cases, that majority isn't 95%. At best, maybe it's 60 to 80%, which means that you're alienating the other 20 to 40% who are saying, this isn't for me at all. What this strategy allows you to do is speak to 100% of your market.
Right. It's just so we're crystal clear on folks, whether they have multiple products or single product. One, obviously multiple products based on answers, you can guide them towards the path of the product that is going to help them the most. Mm-hmm. Single product is you're going to guide them to your product, but you're going to speak with them in different ways and maybe accentuate the features or the benefits that they are looking for in that product. Exactly. Based on what they've said, even though it's one single product. So this works really whether you have just one product, one service, or if you have a whole line of products, whether it's info products, physical products, anything, like that. And I think right now, as you're listening to this, I know that the ideas, I can even smell something burning. I know you got people thinking right now. And it is just tremendous to me. And I've seen this work in so many different markets. And I can see as you went through and talked in details about this, the markets that I could see this working that I never even thought about, how it working. I work a lot with, you think about mortgage companies, even though they're a mortgage company, they have different types of loan, and depending on how they answer those questions, you'll take them down these different funnels. So let's take away the scary part of the complexity of this, mm-hmm. The moving parts to this. Mm-hmm. Can you give us the high level view of what the moving parts of a survey are? I know you talked about, we got to the landing page part, mm-hmm. and then what occurs after that?
Well, I like to keep it, if you want to keep it simple, because you can make this as simple or complex as you want. But the way I typically approach something is I like to have a page with a video on it. The video walks through the reason why you should take the survey, speaking from your perspective to your prospective customer. And the examples that we walk through, I approximated what that experience is like. Someone watches a video, typically anywhere from 1 to 3 minutes long, basically selling you on why you should take the survey. Imagine a button below that video. You ask your prospect to click on that button. The button either opens up a new page or a little pop-up, and then from there, you're asking people to take, at a minimum, you can just ask one simple question. If you are a business consultant and you work with either consultants or business owners, you might ask that one simple question. Which of the following best describes you? Are you a business owner or a consultant? Or you might say, which of the following best describes the size of your business? I make $1 million or more. I make $500,000 to $1 million. I make less than $500,000 a year in my business. And you might use the answer to that question to send people into one of 3 different pages. Maybe you have a high-end offering for businesses that make $1 million or more. That might be an offering if you're a consultant where you do the work for them. You come in and you actually do the work for them. Then maybe for the business that does $500,000 to $1 million a year, you send them to another page to another offer. That might be an offer where you act as a consultant for a certain retainer. And then for the business that does less than $500,000 a year, maybe you sell an actual information product that teaches them how to do it themselves. It can be as simple as that. You could ask for this simple question, if you're in a health market, as an example, are you a man or are you a woman? If you're a health coach and you help people get into shape and lose weight, we all know that men and women have different struggles when it comes to losing weight and building muscle. Women might struggle with cellulite on the back of their thighs. Men might struggle with a beer gut. Well, just by knowing a person's gender, just by asking that one question, you can tailor your sales messaging. So a simple multiple choice question is the most basic way to do this. And then after that question, you send people to one of 2 pages, one of 3 pages. Then if you want to take it one level further in terms of complexity, if you do anything with email, and I strongly advocate that you do if you market online, to integrate email marketing into your business, well, you could send people to, for the male-female example, if they say male, they go to website.com/men, and they're added to your men email list. If they say that they're a woman, they go to website.com/women, and they're added to your women email list. And the emails that you send those 2 different audiences would be different. In the male email, you might talk about, if you're struggling with an extra 2 to 3 inches around your waist that you want to get rid of, and you just can't get rid of that extra stubborn belly fat, well, here's why. For the female, you might have that same email that says, if you're struggling to get rid of that, unsightly cellulite on the back of your thighs and you can't figure out the reason why, well, here's what you need to do now. So they can be the same themes, but you're tailoring them to the different segments in your market. So that's at a very high level, and I know we could go, it's because the format of the show is radio, and it's difficult to, visualize this without seeing it. I hope that gives sort of like a high level view of what this looks like at a very basic level. Now, this is just one piece of the puzzle. Obviously, you can take this further. You can ask 10 questions along the way and get much more hyper specific. You can do all sorts of things where one of the things that I do just as an advanced tactic, I don't want it to overwhelm people, but if you've ever seen emails, if you've ever gotten emails from someone that says, Dear Jack, blah, 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 and they've used what we call in the industry a merge field to insert your first name in the email. So it looks like it's a personalized email coming to you. You can use that same technology to echo back everything else that they've told you in the survey. So if they say that they're a 65-year-old woman, in the email, you can actually echo back that same information to them. And you can do it in a way that they don't even realize that you're doing it. And you would do it by saying something like this. Let's say the person we're writing to, her name is Janet, and she's a 65-year-old woman. So we'd say, Dear Janet, what's interesting? I've found that the women that I work with who are in their 60s tend to struggle with one of several challenges. Now, imagine if Bob, who's 45, also filled out that survey. You can use merge technology to actually send that same email, which would then read, Dear Bob, what's interesting about the men in their 40s that I work with? They tend to struggle with one of several challenges. Same email, but when Bob gets it and when Janet gets it, they're looking at this and they're reading it and they're saying, this is squarely for me.
That's huge.
It is. And almost nobody does this. This is, and I'm just giving you one example. You asked me to peel back the curtain. This is just one example of some of the stuff that, again, you might not realize is going on, but hopefully when you start reading the marketing messages that you're getting, you can look at it through this lens now and pay attention to this stuff. Not just the Dear Janet piece, which we've all seen 1,000 times, but some of this other stuff that you might not even realize is happening in the background. And then as you put your business owner hat on, you might look at it and say, how can I use some of this in my business?
I think that the possibilities are just infinite. It seems like, to dig into this, and you can always dig in deeper. And I think right now you're definitely an influencer. That's why you're on this show. But I think it's just so obvious now, why you have a 6-month waiting list, because you don't help people with surveys. You give people crystal balls. That's what you're doing is you're creating, you're selling crystal balls. You're in the crystal ball market. And I think that's why this is so huge to put a label of surveys. And I understand that's what people understand, but this isn't a survey. This really is a crystal ball. And for that, you're not only influencing, business owners to be able to go further and beyond, what they thought their digital reach was, but you're also influencing them and showing them how to influence the decisions that their customers made. Again, why I'm happy you're not a criminal psychopath, because it really is powerful stuff. Now, one thing that I always like to find out is what is influencing the influencer. What influences you that inspires you to do what you do, that also finds its way into the clients that you work with as well?
That's a great question. I mean, I'm a huge reader. I have a huge library. I try to read at least a book a week. A lot of books are around the topics of business and psychology. So it's difficult to pinpoint one, specific book or author that I'd say has had an overwhelming influence on myself. If you haven't read Robert Cialdini's book Influence, it's worth reading. Cialdini is spelled C-I-A-Cialdai.
Now, don't go showing off, all right?
Cialdalni, Cialdini. He has several books out there on the topic of influence and how it relates to business. That's a great starting point. There's a gentleman by the name of Paco Underhill he wrote a book called Call of the Mall and Why We Buy. And his focus is on the psychology of department stores and malls and why they're built in the way they're built, and why the shoe department, I won't spoil it for you, always faces the cosmetic department and what's going on psychologically and the reasons for that. And, things like the distance between clothing racks and why they're exactly at that distance. That's not arbitrary. There's a reason for all of that. So that takes some of what we are talking about online to a physical setting. So it's important to have, I think, that wide range of education. Now, those are a few things that you can look at. As far as what I'm reading right now, because I think it's always fun to hear about what someone's reading right now, I'm a big fan of the author Robert Greene. He wrote the book 48 Laws of Power and a whole host of other books. And I read that book when it came out maybe 15 years ago. And he's written a few books since then. The most recent one that I'm reading is a book called Mastery, in which he chronicles what it takes to achieve mastery in any one skill or discipline. And the reason why I think that's such a great book to read, especially in this day and age, is I don't know about you, Jack, but I constantly feel like I'm pulled in a million different directions with Facebook and social media and email and text messages, and it never feels like we have an opportunity to just sit down and master one thing. And I think when you study how people have done it over time, and the people who have achieved the greatest results in whatever it is that they've done in their field, from sports to military achievements to science, and you've seen what it's taken, what they've done to achieve those results, for me at least, it's both inspiring and educational in how to reach the top of my own field. So I think that's a great book to read. And if you're the type of person who doesn't have time to read and you just like to listen to stuff, aside from your podcast, Jack, which is phenomenal, another great one that I like listening to is one called Entrepreneur on Fire, which is it chronicles entrepreneurs, how they got from starting from nothing to whatever level of success that they've achieved. And they come in sort of bite-sized 15, 20-minute chunks of inspiration, is what I call them. There's not a whole lot of education, but I love hearing inspiring stories about how other people rose from the ashes or rose from nothing to achieve great results. And it's always inspiring to hear that and, take your own business to the next level. So I would say those are a few things that are influencing me above and beyond, obviously, Jack, what you're doing in your program, which I think is really excellent.
Well, actually, those are incredible suggestions. The Entrepreneurs on Fire, anybody that can spend 15, 20 minutes to listen to some of that, you're going to get something out of just about every episode of that. And Robert Greene, just phenomenal stuff I guarantee you those books are full of what I call V8 moments. So, those clearly are great, great suggestions. And I can see where those find their way into what you are doing. Now, we've spent the time on the strategies of what you're doing, which is just incredibly powerful. I know folks are going to want to dig into more and understand the mechanics behind it. How can they find out more about what Ryan Levesque is up to and dig deeper into your funnel?
Sure. Well, I recommend two resources. The first is if they visit thefunnelspecialist.com, that's THE funnelspecialist.com, thefunnelspecialist.com. You'll be able to sign up for my daily marketing tip one of the things that I like to do is I like to kind of chronicle what I'm doing across the markets that I'm involved in, where I talk about some of the things that are working, some of the things that aren't working, and I share that in sort of a daily email. Now, I say daily. There's some weeks when just life gets in the way and I've got too much going on professionally that I'm not able to keep up with that schedule, but I try to do that as much as possible daily, Monday through Friday. That's the first resource. It's 100% free, and it's a great way to get sort of tidbits for what I do. The second thing is if someone would like to see how my entire survey funnel formula process works, so building out one of these marketing funnels, not just the stuff that we talked about today, but the actual hands-on, how do you do it, peering over my shoulder, looking at my computer screen and watching me build one of these from beginning to end and answering questions along the way. I have a program in which I teach it, and you can learn more about that at surveyfunnelformula.com. So those would be two great resources, and that's a paid program, just to be perfectly upfront. But those are two resources, both one free and one if you want to make an investment in something that I think would be a great starting point to dive deeper into some of the stuff that we talked about today.
Yeah, I think anybody that saw just the clear and effect and the power of what you went through today, strategy wise, to be able to actually watch you go through the mechanical process of that would be just invaluable. So I highly recommend that you check those out. Ryan, it's been fantastic having you on today, and this was exactly how I thought it would be. Just tremendous information and understanding and putting into simplistic concepts like you're so good at, but really understand the psychology that goes on beyond just the opt-in. Just incredible content. So I thank you very much for coming on and sharing that today.
Jack, my pleasure. It was a lot of fun, and I look forward to doing it again sometime soon. All
right. Fantastic. Folks, check out Ryan's website, The Funnel Specialist, and definitely if you are ready to implement something like that, take a look at his survey information, survey training, just tremendous opportunities there. Until next time, remember, you are the only real game changer.
You've been listening to Influencers Radio. To get all past shows and updates on future shows, visit influencersradio.com today or follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/influencersradio.